Okay, so now I'm going to do just like a quick sort of reading update since it's been so long since I've been on. I'm just going to go over the books I've read in the last, let's see, almost 2 months now, a month and a half, because it's January 22nd or 23rd. I meant to check that after the last video and then I forgot. The Stand by Stephen King. Uh, Scott Danielson and I did a book exchange. He had a channel called Shelfware, but he has discontinued that channel and he now has another one that's just called Scott Danielson. And you can find him on BookTube. I do recommend looking him up. He does podcasts and he's posting them on YouTube. And I love his voice. He has an amazing voice. And he has really interesting discussions, so I highly recommend him. Plus, he's a really nice guy. But anyways, he sent me that we did a book exchange. He sent me The Stand, and I had never read it. So, so I read this. Absolutely loved it. I just loved this book so much. And I am going to do a dedicated review video for this book. I think I say that, and then sometimes I don't actually make the video. I never get around to it. But I do want to talk about this book because I have kind of a lot to say about it. So I do want to talk about this. And if I don't get too tired, I'm going to do a dedicated review video of this book. So there was The Stand. Another book I read, just this one I just read like a week ago or so, is Ocean on Top by Hal Clement. It's a science fiction, and it takes place in the future where the fossil fuel shortage has become a crisis. And so the whole entire world has plugged all their power plants into a worldwide net, and it's being administered by an energy board, and the energy board rations the power that's being distributed all over the planet. And the main character, whose name you never know until the very end of the book, by the way. You never know what his name is until the end because he hates his name. And in its first person, it's him that who is narrating for you. He finds this entire country of people living under the ocean, and they have bioengineered themselves to live in the ocean. And they've just created this wonderfully imaginative environment. This author, I was really pleased with his imagination. It was very, very interesting. The imagination that went into this was crazy. I really, really enjoyed that aspect of it. But I won't get too much into it because I want to do a dedicated review video of this one for sure. This is like the first dedicated review video I'm going to do after I make this update video. So yeah, I'll talk more about it there. And then I read The Last Flight by Julie Clark. Buddy read this with my friend Greenie. Hi, Greenie. It was meh. I gave it 3 stars. It was fine. There was nothing like wrong with it. It was just not exactly my cup of tea. And I do plan to do a dedicated review video of this one too. Hopefully I will actually do that. So I'll talk about it more in the video. Then I read The Langoliers by Stephen King. Oh, loved this book. This is 5 stars for me. Absolutely 100% crazy about this story. So good. Totally recommend this. Absolutely loved it. It's about a group of, if you don't know, it's an old book now, but if you don't know, it's about a group of people who fall asleep on an airplane and they all wake, and when they wake up, they're the only ones on the plane. Everybody else is gone. The pilots, the stewardesses, all the other passengers, everybody's just like gone and they don't know what has happened. So I'll just leave it at that in case you want to read it. And I do also plan to talk about this in a dedicated review video. Hopefully I will actually do that. And then I read the first book in the Firefly series. I was a huge Firefly fan, Firefly fan. And so, of course, I'm going to read all the books. And there are 4 books out right now, and there's a 5th one that will be coming out in March. So anyways, this is the first one. It's called Big Damn Hero. I have mixed feelings about this book, but I really did enjoy it, and I would recommend it to Firefly fans. Oh my gosh, I cannot talk. Firefly fans. So if you are a fan of Firefly and Serenity, which was the movie, of course, then yes, I think that you will enjoy this book. I think that you will enjoy it. You know what? I have mixed feelings about it, but I'm definitely going to continue on, and I did like the book. I just had some problems with it, but yeah, it's edited by Joss Whedon, so it is accurate. The characters are accurate, all that kind of thing, but I'll talk about it more in a dedicated review video, and I'll go into more depth about this book. This book I read right around Christmas time. It's called Jacob T. Marley, and the author is R. William Bennett. Hated it. Didn't like it at all. There was a little bit I liked about it, so I did give it 2 stars as opposed to 1. I did like finding out it's a companion book to A Christmas Carol, of course, by Charles Dickens, about Jacob Marley. We follow Jacob Marley instead of Scrooge. So this author like imagines what Jacob Marley was like and what his life was like and how he became who he was, and actually who he was, because we don't really get the best idea about who he was other than he was very much like Scrooge from A Christmas Carol. I did enjoy Jacob's backstory. I really enjoyed that part. I thought that was really well done. And I liked the way that he tied that in. I liked the way that him and Scrooge met. I thought the way him and Scrooge met was very interesting and very well done. But I had some problems with this book. I had a few problems with this book, and I ended up not really liking it. So 2 stars. Again, I'm going to try to do a dedicated review video for this book. Hopefully I do that, and I'll go into more depth about that then. And then this was like an extra buddy read in Rachel's book club over at the Shades of Orange. This was a book that we read. It wasn't like it wasn't like the choice for the book club, but it was just like every month it seems like we all pick another book, or at least a group of us pick another book, and then we read an extra book together. And this was like the extra book. And this is by, the author is Brom, who is actually an artist, but he also writes novels, and he has several out. He also wrote The Child Thief, and I did read that book. It was a sort of a Peter Pan retelling, and it was okay. I liked it, but it was not super great. But I liked it. I read the whole thing, and I gave it 3 stars, So it was good, but I don't know. I was kind of uncomfortable with it, and like, it's called The Child Thief, and it like mixes some Arthurian fantasy in with the Peter Pan mythos. So I say mythos and with the Peter Pan story. So I don't know. It was okay. But this is by him. And so I thought, oh, well, I'll probably like this better because I really like Krampus. I really like him as a mythical character. And I did not get very far in this book. I had to DNF it. There was too much gratuitous swearing in here. The F word, like in every other sentence. I thought the characters were really stupid. There was just nothing I liked about this book in the, I don't know what it was, 40 pages that I read. I didn't like it at all. And I think the problem is that somebody else will like this book, because like the others who read it really liked it. They all liked it. I think I was the only one who didn't like it. I just think that this author is not for me. I think I like Brom's artwork, but I don't like his writing. I think his style is just not, I don't think he's a particularly good writer to start with. Like, it's totally fine. His writing's totally fine. There's nothing like wrong with his writing, but it's not great writing. You know what I mean? It's just, he can write a story, essentially. That's how I feel about him. And somebody else might have a totally different take on that. And I hate saying that about Brom because I really like him. I really like him as an artist, so I hate saying that about it. But I feel how I feel. But yeah, so I think his books aren't for me. So I'm going to get rid of these books. I have The Child Thief too. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that one as well. And I'm not going to read any more of his books. So the premises all of the book premises sound good. But like I said, the 2 that I've read have been a disappointment. So no more of that. No more Brom. The other one I read was World War Z by Max Brooks. I had very mixed feelings about this book. I can't remember what I rated it. I think I rated it 3 stars. I don't think I went down to 2 stars, although I may have. Yeah, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I probably did rate this down to 2 stars on Goodreads. I liked the portrayal. I liked what happened in the book. Like, I liked the zombie war. I liked that it took 10 years. I liked the way that he has the virus spreading all over the world and how it took a few years to get all over the world. It's not like the movie where it's instantly everybody's a stinking zombie, because that's just totally stupid. And not that any of it's realistic, mind you, but it's more realistic to think that a virus that is spread through this kind of contact would take a few years to get over the world. It's not like it's airborne or something. So, yeah, I felt like I liked that. I liked a lot of the stuff that happened during the zombie war. However, I hated the way he told the story. He didn't tell a story. It's not It's not a story. You don't open up and start reading a story. It's one man who has traveled all over the world to interview survivors of the zombie war, and he writes down their accounts in a book. And so you're hearing these people tell their accounts, their firsthand accounts. They're not even experiencing it at the time. They're just talking about what happened to them. And so what happened to them was very interesting, but most of those stories lacked what you get when you're reading a good story. You lacked being in the moment with them. You lacked having the experience with them and reading about their emotions and their state of mind and their decisions and all of that. You all that is missing because they're accounts. You know what I mean? It's not the story as it unfolded. So I absolutely detested the way. I thought, what a waste of a marvelous idea for a zombie book. I just really liked all of the content. I just hated the way he told it. And then the ending was absolutely terrible. I hated the ending. The ending was just terrible. So the good portion of the book was in the middle because it took almost 100 pages for me to get over the way it was being told. I almost DNF'd it like twice. And then the last 50 pages are terrible. So, again, I do plan to do a dedicated review of this book, and I'll go into a lot more detail in that video if I get to it. Hopefully I will. So yeah, let's see. And then I read around Christmas time again, I read A Christmas Carol and Other Holiday Treasures by Charles Dickens. Now, the only story I read in here was A Christmas Carol because I really like The Christmas Carol. I think it's a wonderful story. I've read it many times. And you know what I've realized? I'm tired of reading it. I read it this year and I almost quit reading it in the middle because I was like, you know what? I think I'm burned up on this story. I've read it too many times. So I don't think I'm going to read it next year. I don't think I'm going to read it anymore. However, there are quite a few other stories because I read in this book that Charles Dickens, he wrote The Christmas Carol, and at the time, only the people with money could afford to buy books. And he wrote The Christmas Carol, and he wanted everybody to be able to afford this book. And he could not get any publisher to make a cheap copy of his book. So he took money from his own pocket and published his book in an affordable form so that everybody could buy the book and enjoy it. So it became just insanely popular. And I think it said his initial copies sold out immediately, like within a month or something like that. They were completely gone. And so he had to get more of them published. And then every year he wrote a new Christmas story and published them so that everybody could buy them. And that was the first time that books were mass made in editions that common people could afford. And so I thought that was really, really interesting. I really enjoyed that. That was in the introduction of this book. And then there's several, and then the other Christmas stories that he wrote are also in here. I don't think I've ever read any of them. I could have read one or two of them or something and just don't remember it but none of the titles rang a bell for me. And I wanted to continue on and read the rest of the stories in the book, but I didn't because I was kind of feeling disappointed that I wasn't enjoying A Christmas Carol the way that I had always enjoyed it in the past. So I didn't read the rest of the stories, but I left the marker in. So I will go back at some point. Maybe it won't be until next Christmas, and then I'll read the other stories out of the book. So, but yeah, I like the edition, by the way. It's a vinyl. Who published this? I forgot. Word Cloud or something like that. Yeah, Word Cloud Classics, and they're the vinyl editions. I really like them. But anyway, yeah, I like the edition, but yeah, I'm super disappointed that just as I finally got like an edition I really like, I stopped liking Christmas Carol. I don't dislike it. I'm tired of reading it. I'm not going to read it anymore. So, but like I said, other stories, I'll give those a try. And then, this was the January pick for Rachel's Book Club at the Shades of Orange, The Terror by Dan Simmons. Now, this sounds really, really good to me. I read 4 pages and then I quit because I realized I'm not in the mood for this. It's a historical horror novel based on a real event. However, I wasn't in the mood for a historical novel. I just wasn't in the mood for it. So I had to put it aside. I'm going to pick it up later because it does sound really, I am interested in reading this. It sounds really, really good. It sounds exactly like the kind of thing I would like. So I am interested in reading it, but I'm just not interested in reading it right now. I'm just really stuck on science fiction right now. I just want to read science fiction because it's been all year pretty much since I've read any science fiction. I've been reading horror all of 2020. So yeah, I had to put it aside, get back to it later. What I'm currently reading right now is Under the Dome by Stephen King. Now, when I read The Stand, I finished The Stand and I was so happy. It just made me so happy reading that book. And I forgot how much I like reading really long books. I actually love really long books because you get to spend so much time immersed in those worlds and then the stories and with those characters. And a lot of the times when a book's this long, you get to know the characters really well. Or in the case of Stephen King, there's a lot of characters to get to know. So I say that as if I know Stephen King. I haven't read all that much Stephen King. So I'm on my way to reading a bunch of Stephen King, but I haven't read too many books of his yet. But anyway, so yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm on page 439. I was reading this with my book friend Sandy, and Sandy had to DNF it. She didn't like it at all. She said it was just a lot of bad people doing a lot of bad things, and she didn't care for it. And I don't blame her at all. I do not encourage people to read books they are not enjoying. I think it's a waste of time. If you're not enjoying a book, why are you reading that? I used to not ever DNF a book myself, but I don't ever remember reading a book that I hated. I think I was a lot more particular about what I was reading. I would stick only to the genres I liked. So I had a point, and I've totally lost my point because I'm getting tired and I'm rambling. I have no idea what I was saying. Oh, I know what I was saying. Okay. Yeah. So, but once I started like really expanding and reaching out and trying new kinds of books that I had not tried before and really like sort of exploring what my tastes really were, I started finding a lot of books that I didn't like and I didn't want to read. And so at first, for about 5 seconds, I thought, well, I should read the book I bought it. You know what I mean? But very quickly I was like, no, this is a total waste of time. There's so many books in the world and I have like 600 unread books. I'm not going to waste my life reading books that I don't enjoy. So I'm a huge believer in DNFing. So I don't blame Sandy at all for DNFing this. There's no way I would have asked her to continue reading a book she's not enjoying, because who wants to do that? But so far I am enjoying it. I hope that I don't feel the same way as Sandy. I hope, because I do like reading like dark, sort of twisted stories and stuff. So it'll probably be fine for me. But I am a little bit worried now because Sandy had to DNF it. I'm like, well, how bad does this really get? So I'm a little bit concerned about that, but it'll probably be fine. It really takes a lot for me to get turned off by dark. It usually has to involve like, child abuse, like child sexual abuse, before I'm like, oh no, I can't read this. So yeah, it'll probably be fine for me. But yeah, really, really enjoying it so far. So that's everything I got to say. Sorry that I rambled so much and kept repeating myself. I'm getting really tired. And I kind of just do that anyway. I have to make a conscious effort to not do that stuff. But anyway, yeah, so that's my reading update. Now I'm going to try to sit down and I'm going to try to stay awake enough and like hopefully I don't get too tired where I can do like book reviews of all these books that I have read, or at least get through a good portion of them. So be looking for those.